Hello everyone, Danny from the Community Broadcasting Association of Australia here. Hopefully you're not sick of me saying the words Danny from the Community Broadcasting Association of Australia here, welcoming everyone to this evening's webinar, How to Create a Winning Sponsorship Media Kit. First things first, tonight's session is being broadcast to you live from Gadigal land. So I'd like to pay respects to the traditional owners of the land upon which we meet, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. We pay respects to elders past, present and emerging. If you'd like to pay respects to the traditional owners of the land upon which you're joining us, because we've got people here from all over the nation, please feel free to do so in the chat box. We love to have that there, and thanks very much to everyone who's been letting us know what station they're joining us from this evening for tonight's session. As always, I need to do a little bit of that housekeeping. The CBAA conference. It is just around the corner. It only seems like we just finished the last one, but we're already getting sorted for the next one. Early bird registrations are now open, but they close 30th of June, which is Sunday by my calculations. It's online registration, so you're sort of right to get in there and do that, but please, we love to see sort of as many community broadcasters there as is possible. So if you're able to get on down to the CBAA conference, we would, of course, love to see you there. That's cbaa.org.au if you want to register for that one. Just follow the links from the homepage to get there. Once again, early birds close this Sunday, 30th of June. End of financial year. This is the first time I've ever had the responsibility of having to let people know, hey, end of financial year. Tonight's session, How to Create a Winning Sponsorship Media Kit. Your airtime is your station's greatest asset, and sponsorship is, of course, the single biggest source of income for the community broadcasting sector. Your kit that you send out to prospective sponsors can be their first introduction to the station, and these first impressions count. So hopefully this evening we'll all join together, look at the trends, the information that we have available, and try and create the best sponsorship kit that we possibly can. We've got to give it up to our special guest for this evening. From 88.9 FM in Tamworth, Sales Manager Scott McElveen, and the Sponsorship and Promotions Manager for Sydney's 2SER, Kat Alchin, as with all of our presenters that we have here taking part in our CBAA webinars. Can't thank them enough. They volunteer their time like you all do. You volunteer your time for your station, and these people are going above and beyond and volunteering their time to help us refine our sponsorship practice. And also can't forget the thanks without also giving it up to our good friends at the Community Media Training Organisation, who sponsor our series of webinars. Helly from the CMTO, who will be joining us from over there at the moment. G'day, Helly. Thank you so much for taking the time out today to say g'day. Tonight's session, we'll look at how stations use their media kits to attract new sponsorship opportunities and retain existing sponsors. Look at the information available to you to help create effective sponsorship materials, and how to present this sponsorship information in an attractive and informative fashion. Now, I'm going to sort of take the, the latter parts of today's session and look at the information that is available out there that you can use. But we're going to have a bit of a chat with Kat and Scott right about now. Excuse me. Now, Kat, if you're there and you wouldn't mind grabbing control of the screen, I will get you to jump on first, sort of run through your media kit and how you go about presenting that information to potential and sponsors and existing clients there of the wonderful 2SER.
Yes, so if I can get this to work. Yeah, so basically what I sort of came over and took over from my predecessor, Mark Ward, who pretty much really transformed the sponsorship for 2SER anyway. So we had a fairly decent client base, but we kind of weren't able to really send out the media kit that we had to prospective. We weren't really using it to its fullest potential, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But yeah, and so I sort of had to come in, look at what the media kit was, look at who we were actually getting sponsors for, who we would like to get sponsorship from, and kind of go from there. But yeah, so I thought I'd just sort of talk about the process of editing and redesigning it and sort of tweaking it as you go along to notice what is working and what isn't working and what maybe you should be changing, what you should sort of put more emphasis on it and stuff like that. So, I mean, this might be really obvious, but I guess the most important thing is to think about who you're actually sending it out to. And like what they care about really. Yeah, so for us, like I did a little bit of a sort of audit, I guess, of like the kinds of businesses that were giving us sponsorship and the kinds of information that they would need in order to potentially give us more money. You know, if I went to a different one of the same kind of category, so in our case, we get a lot of arts and culture organizations who sponsor with us. So, you know, like what does an arts and culture organization in Sydney want to know in order to invest in a station? And so I've sort of looked at that and had to tweak all the information to those kinds of people, as well as sort of thinking like who maybe we haven't been sending it to, but who could we be sending it to, and all of that kind of stuff. So it's not just about, I guess, the flat out numbers, but really sort of shaping a story that you want to present. And it certainly has looked very different in all the different versions that I'm about to show you. So this is a really, really early version. It basically didn't have any pictures, had great copy though. And so these were all the kind of points that we were basically talking to people about in meetings when we just had it all written down. But yeah, just super, super basic. And at the end of the day, because it wasn't very engaging, even though the copy was great and all the points were really important for the clients to know, obviously no one was actually reading the information, so therefore it wasn't really being effective. So yeah, we sort of took that and used it as a jumping off point. But yeah, so it was very, we just kind of cherry picked the data off the listener survey to what was actually really important for us. And then we were just sort of talking about it and trying to sort of engage a client, a prospective client in the actual meeting. But in terms of if we set that out over email, it just wasn't getting anything back. Like it wasn't really increasing the amount of meetings we were going to get or, you know, increasing the sponsorship, because it was really about having that face-to-face conversation rather than the actual media kit. So then we sort of went to professional designer, which was like, please help. So this one, obviously, layout is very, very different. And we kind of use that to highlight bits of different information. And we use like things like color, different font sizes, a lot of graphics and charts to kind of break up the text as well. And if you see in the bottom left, so down here, that's one of the most important things that I would say I have learned in this role anyway, is that people want to know what your clients and what your listeners are actually going to spend money on, and like what kind of spending habits they do have. So for example, if you're talking to a plumber, you want to know that they're actually interested in something to do with like home renovation or whatever, whereas like someone who's an accountant doesn't really care if someone is going to buy a CD, for example. So I use those figures down here, and that's from that national listenership survey, to really sort of highlight the kind of culture of our audience, I suppose. And I think every station would have a really unique audience as a culture, and I'm sure everyone knows their own audiences very well. But for us in particular, this kind of stuff, so the fact that people were traveling, and obviously again, we have a lot of arts and cultural organizations, we've got the music purchases, the fact that they're eating out, entertainment, that kind of stuff. And there's a lot of different data that you can get from that last listenership survey that you can kind of shape who your audience looks like, I guess. And then there's all the sort of basic 101 things, like how many listeners you get a month, and the sort of age bracket of all the listeners. But yeah, I did notice when I was going into meetings that basically, because it's still quite text heavy, even though this was definitely improved from the last one, people were really only looking at the left-hand columns, and that's basically the infographic side of things. So they really weren't reading all the good copy that we had in the right-hand column. Yeah, so moving on from that, so this is like one of our sort of current ones. We sort of tweaked it again. So basically we broke it up, spread it out over 2 different pages, just really, really cut back on the copy. Was just like, right, let's do 1 sentence per point. Let's try to increase the graphics. So again, down here, I've got those like spending audience sort of percentages, but we've done them with infographics at the side instead, just assuming that people don't read. That's the biggest tip I can give you, people don't read. But yeah, so again, just sort of really cutting it back and just making it really simple to take in as much information as possible, really at a glance, because people aren't necessarily going to invest in a 6-page document the same way that they may have done previously. There's lots of marketing research on that around the ones. But yeah, and so this is, for example, I noticed there was a bit of a difference in what people were asking me as well. So in this one down here, we had 4 or 5 of these categories before, but I increased that a little bit more because we were getting things like some like accountancy firms and stuff like that. So I sort of tweaked it a little bit along the way, and yeah, just really paired it back. But there's definitely still some stuff that we can improve on as well. I would really recommend trying to get off your designer some sort of hard copy that you can easily edit a few things like the copy. So for example, if you just wanted to change the statistics here, for example, if you can get, if you do go with a designer or if you do it in-house, you've got some sort of copy of the media kit that you can easily edit as you go along, and that makes it easier as well. It makes it a bit more dynamic, so as soon as you notice something, you're not having to go back to someone that maybe paid 6 months earlier and say, hey, can I spend another $100 to change 3 words? But yeah, and if you do have the ability to do it in-house, obviously, that becomes a lot easier as well. But yeah, that's pretty much me. So yeah, recommend like just paring it back, keeping it simple, and just remember that people generally don't read. As much as you would love them to read your media kit, you've got to make it super, super easy, cater for the bottom 2%, and make sure you know who you're talking to as well and what they're going to care about. Yeah, so I think that's it from me.
Excellent. Thanks very much for that, Kat. And thank you so much for taking the time to join us here this evening. It's very much appreciated. Now, Scott, I'm just going to unmute you and get you to get your screen ready. Craig from Ballarat. No sound your end. That's no good. The webinar has indeed started. Are you hearing me at the moment? I'll just take while Scott is getting his screen and stuff ready. I will just do a quick bit of housekeeping with you. Craig, do you read me? I'll write that down. Craig, do you read me? Other people, do you read me? Just, I'm just hoping that there's sort of these audio issues that Craig is having are not extending to everyone. Now, Scott, if you wouldn't mind, Helen reads me. Everyone else is loud and clear. Excellent. Thank you so much. Okay. Now, if there is a problem there, and if anyone sort of experience any difficulties with the audio, please at the bottom of your screen in the settings, just click on one of the arrows. The audio settings are in there, and you'll be able to sort things out there. Now, Scott, if you're there at the moment.
Yep.
Mate, I'll get you to grab control of the screen by just hitting the share button at the bottom of your Zoom there. And
Yep.
I'll let you give us a bit of a chat. Obviously, sort of, Kat is talking about things from a metropolitan station angle.
Yep.
Scott, we're discussing it from the Tamworth angle.
Regional New South Wales. If everybody's got me, hope you have. So obviously Tamworth is sort of about 5 hours or so drive northwest of Sydney. So it's sort of halfway between Sydney and Brisbane, stating the obvious for people that know exactly where we are, but for people we don't, that's sort of where we're no beach here, that's for sure. And actually not even any water at the moment, but we won't go into that. Like Kat obviously raised a lot of great points there in terms of, knowing who you're after, why they want to know about what you do, and giving them all that information. So along the same sort of lines, probably about around just a little bit longer than 5 years ago, our CEO made a decision to change the station from being 2U FM to being 88.9. It's probably not unique in Australia, but it's a little bit unique in terms of capital cities, for instance, that there's only one other FM station broadcasting in Tamworth that has the ability for people to promote their businesses on, or obviously in commercial terms, advertise. So there was definitely an opportunity seen there to build the station into almost being like another commercial station, while obviously following the strict guidelines of the 5 minutes and all that sort of stuff, and the sponsor tags. There was an opportunity to position ourselves alongside of the other FM, and provide, you know, a service to the local businesses, businesses from outside the town, adjoining towns, all of that sort of thing. So that happened, and the station progressed for a while, you know, on very low community broadcaster rates and all this sort of stuff, and, you know, everything being made in house in terms of ads and all those sort of things. And then a couple of years ago, as that grew, or sort of organically, and because there, you know, either, you know, everybody wanted another option or they wanted a second option, we're more of a gold type station, go after an older audience, 40 plus. The FM, which is a Corrales network station, the other FM in Tamworth, is very much a hit radio station. It's obviously like a 18 type, although they are definitely changing a little bit at the moment, seeing that we're sort of taking a lot of their clients away, and we're doing pretty well. They're starting to play a lot more 80s, 90s, all that sort of thing, but they're predominantly a hit radio station. So after we'd positioned ourselves as that sort of older demographic station, a bit more gold, that time 60s, 70s, 80s, obviously a sprinkling or a bit of country music, because Tamworth is obviously the home of Australian country music, even if it is maybe for only 2 weeks of the year. And that sort of really grew. So what was happening was a lot of, you know, local businesses, or maybe national franchises, or a lot of, you know, national advertisers, would be agencies or whatever, were coming and saying, well, we've been told you guys are an option. What do you do? What's your stats? What do you got to tell us? And so obviously there was nothing much other than, here's our rate card. This is who we get to. We're great. Trust us. So obviously that doesn't work a lot of the time with a lot of people. So, you know, a marketing kit was developed. This is going to look a little bit funny on the screen. Some of the way that the artwork was done doesn't look exactly the same as the printed version, but it was printed in a handout. So what it does now, it's enabled the station to really grow, you know, take on, cement a lot of the local clients, cement the local businesses who are maybe national franchises, and then also, you know, when we get requests, or if we're chasing, you know, local franchise opportunities that we have to go to a head office in a capital city in Sydney or Melbourne or whatever, we utilise this document, survey information, but also with the local people, we still, if we get the opportunity to go and present to a local business, we still take this and present it, so it cements to them that we know about the region, we know about the town, we know about, you know, the economic data, we know about the population split, all that sort of stuff. So I suppose it just gives, even though it's sort of preaching to the converted, it's obvious to them, it shows that we're, you know, professional. We've got all the data. We do our own survey stuff. You know, we're talking to local council, local business chamber, to get all that sort of, you know, economic type data, population mixes, you know, whether, you know, tradies, where they fit into in terms of the population, all that sort of stuff. So, and it also, after the station had grown, it also we're able to show some of the things and local events that we've been involved in and all that sort of stuff. So it, this is probably a little bit hard to see. I'll just flick through it this way, but it shows obviously what region, what market we capture, and then it does have some pretty pictures and things like that. Then we go through different things like the region, like, you know, talking. This is obviously to people who are outside the broadcast area, who might be contacting for their local business, for their local franchise, or whatever it may be, to talk about Tamworth and you know, how many businesses there are, what's the gross economic product, like all of those sort of things. And it's probably information overload for a lot of people, but as Kat says, you know, there's not everybody reads it, but it's all there. And sometimes we just get people flick through and go, oh, this is impressive. Yeah, fine. And they put it down and probably don't even read the rest of it. So, you know, it's obviously full of graphs, full of, you know, things we might have been involved in, whether it's sports broadcasts, local events. So it just goes through all that specific data of, you know, about business, about retail, about entertainment, about why we're part of the community, about what Tamworth also, and a lot of this is for people who don't know about the town and who are approaching us. You know, had an inquiry today from an agency in Melbourne who handle a particular truck brand, who wanted to do something for the local, via the head office of the brand, for the local entity, the local dealer. So he was sort of flying blind. He thinks he's ringing this little community station. What do you guys do? You know, so to give him this and to go through it, he's like, oh, okay, well, fair enough. I can see that you know who you're broadcasting to, you know who your listeners are, you know how long they listen, all that sort of stuff. So just about Tamworth as well in general. And you know even the fact that we promote ourselves, whether it be on billboards, bus sides, you know, cars, you know, we've done TV campaigns in the past, all that sort of thing. So so it's a broad ranging, you know, document that that can show, you know, Tamworth, as well as the local population is probably around the town of Tamworth itself and the council sort of area probably gets to about 70,000 people. But we do broadcast into, I've got another graph, it's not right here at the moment, but attached to this as well is the broadcast area. So we do reach to Gunnedah, which is obviously a close by town. So there's businesses that know that, say, for instance, people in Gunnedah come and work in Tamworth, so they want to still get their message, you know, while they're driving here or through the day or whatever. So we include obviously that map so that people outside can still say, okay, well, you get to these towns. So, you know, there's at the moment agriculture is not great, but agricultural people, businesses obviously promote with us, and they want to know that they can get out to the outlying towns of Corinda and all those sort of things, and that their message will spread across those areas. So for us, it's probably cementing to the local potential clients that we know about our backyard and we know about their business and who they're trying to get to, and that we can get to those people. And then obviously for the outlying and obviously people that are contacting us who don't know anything about the town, it sort of it tells them about, you know, what the reach is, what the potential reach is, you know, all those sort of things. So, you know, all the data was either farmed from ABS, Bureau of Statistics information. The council obviously is quite strong at doing a lot of their own, you know, studies, and some of the information is provided by them. Local business chambers obviously a good one to deal with, because they can tell us exactly how many businesses are in town, and you know, it gives all that data as well about, you know, even down to things like, you know, average purchases through businesses and a lot of those different things can be gained through dealing with, you know, your local council, local business chamber and Bureau of Statistics stuff. So that's basically how we use it, how we built it, and what it can do for us.
Excellent, Scott. Thank you so much for that. Good point you raised there with the local chamber of business. I think that's a really great connection for community broadcasters to be making, is sort of getting in touch with those people there.
Yeah, well, we try and work closely with the guys here in Tamworth, and for instance, their business awards, we'll partner with them to provide support to promote their local business awards and other initiatives. Actually, at the end of this year, we did first time last year. At the end of this year, we've actually got a shop local promotion in conjunction with the council and the business chamber that drives people to try and shop and stay local in town, rather than, you know, maybe potentially online or potentially travelling out to go to, you know, drive to Newcastle or even Sydney or somewhere to do shopping. So working closely with, and we obviously work very closely with the council as well, and all their initiatives, like whether it's their local water initiatives and all those sort of things. So there too, and from that, I think that's, you know, that builds confidence that you can deliver those messages and helps bring other sponsors on as well.
Excellent. Oh, well, it's a bit of a shame at the moment you're sort of having so much trouble there with the water. I was hoping that you might have got a bit of rain there this week. We're certainly getting it here in Sydney at the moment, but a bit of a bugger if you're not getting it there in Tamworth where you really need it.
Nothing. Thanks.
Oh, geez. Both Kat and Scott, of course, referred to the National Listener Survey. We do that up there on the screen at the moment, a survey of community radio listening habits of all Australians. Hopefully, I would assume that everyone is certainly aware of the information that's available there in the National Listener Survey. For areas that are big enough, you're able to get sort of tailored data. But there is a lot of general data that's available there, and it's of course put together by our good friends at McNair Ingenuity, who will go to the mat for this one, for the validity of this research and the importance that community radio has there. I think sort of for the smaller markets, really important there, the biggest reason why people are listening to community radio is for local information and news. And for, of course, many rural and regional areas, for many of those places, the community radio station is the only local voice there. And that's, of course, a really great thing to illustrate to local businesses, to sort of say, if we want to build this community together, then the community radio station is probably the best form of promotion for that. There's also statistics in there, time spent listening. Now, obviously, sort of there's the great relationship between time spent listening and the ability for that to be harnessed by businesses for promotion. And so great to be able to use that statistic that's there. In addition to the National Listener Survey, the CBAA and McNair Ingenuity also offer to stations the Station Community Engagement Survey. It's a do-it-yourself audience research. It costs far less than the National Listener Survey. And indeed, it's one of those things where if you were to do the survey off your own bat, it's a really difficult thing to undertake. The Station Community Engagement Survey aims to make that easy. It helps you identify who your listeners are, when, how and why they listen to your station. Lovely typo there, Danny, well done. What they like to listen to, how well you're meeting the needs and what they value most about your station. Here's an example of sort of the information that can be yielded from the Station Community Engagement Survey. The Net Promoter Score, if you're not familiar with what the Net Promoter Score is, it's the chance that sort of someone in your audience will recommend your station to someone who's not aware of it. A Net Promoter Score is one of those things that sort of really come to the forefront of marketing practices at the moment. That one there says 59.6. Now, while that might not seem much, that's actually a really good Net Promoter Score. Other things there like average age of your listeners, 43 years. It just so happens I turned 43 the other week, so I've rigged that statistic there. But let's assume that I'm the biggest grocery buyer in my household. That means marketing directly to me is a really great thing, and time spent listening there. If people are spending a lot of time listening to your station, that also means that they're being exposed to a lot of great promotions there. See here other examples of the information you can yield from the SCES. Reasons for listening, letting you know what the station does best. Favourite music style, that's of course one there that Scott's taken into account there with the new direction that 88.9 in Tamworth has taken on in recent years, filling a gap there in the market. And of course the top attributes there, it's always coming up here, the fact that community radio is information about the local area, local issues, and it's delivered by local voices. Scott also brought up the Australian Bureau of Statistics, Australia's national statistic agency, providing trusted official statistics on matters of importance to Australians. We'll just go to their website now. Now, hopefully you're still seeing all of this on your screen. Here's the ABS website. You want to find out, just go to the Find Data by Your Region section there. Follow the links there. Now, generally this sort of works a bit quicker than this. My computer must be going a bit slow because I'm doing all the webinar stuff at the moment. But just abs.gov.au. Come on, ABS website. What is it with this government? Why can't you work for me? Now, if my computer was working, you'd be seeing that data there. All right, but it's not working at the moment. Oh, there we go. Just stop that share there at the moment. The sound level's good now. Sorry, now I've just stopped my screen at the moment because I was having a bit of difficulty there. I would like to start sharing that again and showing you a bit more of the ABS website. It is one of those things that's really easy to use. Yeah, let's see if I can get it working now. Share. No, still not doing it for me. All right, I'll get rid of that tab there from the ABS. But certainly would recommend to people to get onto the ABS website, because it's going to provide that information that they need there about their local community. And certainly you'd be hard pressed to find a business that's going to doubt the information that's available via the Australian Bureau of Statistics. We're about at the halfway point of our webinar at the moment, and I would like to invite all our attendees, if you have any questions for our presenters here at the moment, our special guests, I would invite you to put them forward into the webinar chat box at the moment, please. That's if you have any questions. Please let us know about them. It's great to have this wealth of knowledge here at the moment. And I am going to, while those questions are hopefully being asked, I'm going to see if I can sort out what's wrong with this ABS website. I can't really blame the ABS website, can I? It might just be general internet problems. These things happen though, right? Come on, you. No, there we go. Oh, snap. The ABS website is not working for me at the moment. Hopefully I can get some other sites working up here, because there is some things on the internet that I would love to show to everyone here. Now just check to see. No questions as yet? All right. I'll keep on plugging away. If you do start to have any questions, please feel free to just let us know about those in the chat box. Oh no, hang on, there's one there in the Q&A box. Will we get a copy of the presentation via email after this webinar? Yes, you will, not directly after the webinar. It will be sort of around, I guess, 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, because I get to work early. That's just how I do things. The one that I wanted to, things that I've got up on the screen at the moment, CBAA in Melbourne have a really, really, really fantastic sponsorship media kit. Look at it here. They've sort of, this is the front page here, and it's a collage of all of the posters that the station has had over the years, just sort of illustrating the history of CBAA. They start off their thing by giving a bit of a rundown of what the station is, what it stands for. Second page, statistics. Looking there at sort of how many people are listeners. Here's a good stat here. How many are paid subscribers to the station? That's sort of, obviously that's a statistic specific to that station and not one from the National Listener Survey, but certainly one that shows how engaged the Melbourne community is with the station. Breakdowns there are the demographics of their listeners, which is really great stuff. All sorts of really good statistics on there, a bit of social media stuff there as well. Breaking it down into the areas of Melbourne where people are from. Stuff here about what are they doing, what the CBAA audience does. And this is great stuff for potential sponsors. I mean, obviously, if they're sort of saying 80% of the audience dined out at a cafe or a licensed restaurant in the last week, that's really great. You can sort of take that to your restaurants there in your local areas and let them know. Sponsorship rates. Good thing to have on there. With the sponsorship rates, with printed material, it might not be sort of advantageous for you to have that on there. You might sort of want to give sponsors the option to contact the station and find out a bit the rates. That's just in case your sort of rates might increase throughout the lifetime of that, or you might have a local business confront you with your sponsorship package and say, oh, come on, it says it's only this much for 20 spots. That might be an outdated figure, but you might sort of feel some sort of obligation to provide that discounted figure simply because they have that there. And this is really good stuff here too. The different ways you can advertise with the station, and we can use that term. We don't have to use the term sponsorship if it's for the online aspects of the station. Obviously, a lot of individuals are engaging with their community broadcasting station via the online. Why not use that as a way to sort of bolster the sponsorship that you're able to sell? Obviously, it's not a situation where in our most recent webinar with the Australian Communications and Media Authority, that is one of those things where you've sort of got to be really careful about that, because you can't run your organisation as a profit-making body. So while it's fine for you to enhance your on-air sponsorship with a bit of online promotion, just got to make sure you sort of not using it as a profit-making thing. He's just making sure that that money's going back into the station, but that's obviously there sort of for all aspects of the station. A lot of other promotional opportunities here as well. Great stuff that Triple R is doing. And of course, having the photos in there, just letting people know that it's humans who are running your community broadcasting station. So great stuff in there. That's the Triple R sponsorship kit. It is available on the sponsorship and promotions section of the Triple R website. It seems to be having a bit of difficulty loading at the moment. I will send people links to that tomorrow. Not to harp on about the Melbourne stations, but the PBS media kit is also a really good one. Really striking cover to that one. Describes the station there on the first page. Very similar, sort of breaks down their demographics there with infographics. That's kind of an intensive graphic design job, getting the infographics there, because you've got to be able to take the statistics, make sure they're accurate, be able to tell a story with them. It's obviously striking and it looks really fantastic. And they sort of go through, that's got the rates on there as well. Sort of lets people know the awards that the station is winning, what's so great about the station, why people are listening to it. You'll also note too that with both of those, they're very, very easy to read and very reflective of the logos of the station. White background, black font, red highlights. So that's sort of something that the sponsorship materials for the station are really reflective of everything the station does. If you want to check out, I'll send a link to the PBS kit to everyone tomorrow, but if you want to check that out, it's there in the sponsorship and promotions package. Now, what I'm going to do at the moment, I did see a couple of questions flash up. Now, I'll just check to see those in the Q&A at the moment. Is there a particular type of social media that is useful in reaching potential sponsors? I think probably, I would suggest probably Facebook might be the best, but to answer that question, and there'll be more on this at the end of this evening's webinar, you might be interested in coming up to the next month's webinar where we're going to have build your station's brand using social media. So T, if you don't mind, I will answer that question in a month's time. Joy, where are others posting their questions as they aren't showing here? Joy, there is a Q&A section of the webinar platform. If you just sort of go to where your webinar toolbars are, you should be able to find that out there. I'm glad that people are still hearing me. Hopefully I've answered all the questions. There'll be more question time there at the end. Now, what I have on the screen at the moment is, I'm just going to shut a few windows here so that my internet works well. A couple of the windows I'm shutting are links to the survey stuff, which I will send you tomorrow, but I'm just in the interest of making sure that I'm not getting any slowdown on the stuff that I'm doing. This, what I have in front of you at the moment, is an online open source graphic design program, or not a program, a graphic design tool called Canva. Canva.com. If you want to access this, you can sort of get a free version of it, which is what I'm using now. There is also a not-for-profit version that is available. And so what you can do with this, it's basically graphic design software where you can start to go from go to woe and create your own sponsorship media kit using this. It is a really, really great program. It's sort of available on a few different platforms. You can do this while you can do it on your phone if you want. I'm just going to sort of go through a few design principles here. I'll be able to shut down the emails. A few design principles here to assist people with creating their own sponsorship prospectus. So these, what I've got up on the screen at the moment, or hopefully what will be popping up at the screen at the moment, is design elements and principles. There are countless design elements and principles. We're just going to go through a few of them now. Colour. We would advise any of the colours that you use as part of your branding to reflect your station's logo and sort of any other branding that you might have. Space. So you would see there with the PBS Triple R 2SER and 88.9 examples, that there's sort of everything is arranged in a logical fashion. Sort of, you've got with the places where you have graphs, the information is clear. It is easy to read. It's not sort of jumbled. It makes sense for a person reading it. They can have a glance at it and sort of see, oh, look at that. That graph looks like it's representing positive things coming from that station. Form, the way the elements are arranged in a composition. Unity and harmony, when the elements in a space work together in such a way that resulting look is balanced and harmonious. Now, that's all sort of a bit, I just do radio, I don't do graphic design. That's fine. They are very, very basic principles, and just ones that can really ensure that you can create your own attractive sponsorship prospectus kit. So now if you get onto Canva, this is what it looks like when you start. You go to create a design. You can go through here and check out your templates. I started off with an A4 document. Oh, don't tell me my computer's freezing up now. This is not the time for it, computer. Anyway, you can build it from templates, or you can build it all yourself. This started from a template. It's an A4 template. First thing you do is, and I'm going to use the Community Radio Network as my pretend station that I'm trying to sell sponsorship on behalf of. That's a basic cover page. What you do is, you've got all your tools here along the side. You sort of pick your document there. There's photos and stuff here that you can use. You can also use your own photos. Different elements here, such as borders and whatnot, that you can put around things. Grids and charts. We'll come back to charts in a little bit. There's, of course, text, because you're going to need text with what you're doing. You can have various different backgrounds. Uploads is where you can put your own images in that you can use, plus a range of other media, and the folders thing just helps you organise it. So first things first, this is our title page. CRN is what I'm trying to sell. Sponsorship prospectus is what it is. That's great and everything. It's white on black. It's not super exciting. Maybe I'll change the background for it. A grey background. That maybe looks a little bit professional, but this doesn't look too good, does it? It sort of looks like it's just a copy and paste thing. Those design principles of form and colour. Getting rid of this white space, putting it on there. This here, grey background, grey in what was formerly a white area, makes it look a lot cleaner and easier to read and professional. That's a very, very simple way of looking at it, but sort of with applying the design principles to what you're doing. It's simple things that you're doing to make things look better. Wanting to make it look a little bit better? Why don't I put a red border around it? So you're sort of going from, these are all very simple things to do, very simple to do here using the Canva platform. And you're going from what looks like it could have been made in a Word document. Now it looks more something like, oh, well, you know what? That could have come from a graphic designer. Not sort of picking up my own skills here. Sorry, just bringing up my question there. Then, of course, you're getting on to stuff like, well, they've opened up the cover. Now we've got to describe who we are. Community Radio Network, what it is. Here's some statistics about community radio. That looks really ugly. What you would need to do in a situation like this is sort of the difference between this and this page next. It's the exact same information that's being presented here, but of course one is much better looking than the other. One of those design principles in regards to font and text is you've really pretty much got to have consistent fonts throughout everything. This font we're using at the moment is reflective. You'll notice sort of with anything that comes from the CBAA, everything is very much there in the one font because it's sort of shows uniformity in everything we do. It's adherent to the style guide. If you're looking at it, it can sort of give the audience the idea that what you're seeing there is it's all coming from the one organisation. The use of colour there, sort of if this was a different colour, it wouldn't fit in as much, but using the same red that is there as part of the CRN logo, this means there's uniformity, everything's sort of seeing even here. These logos here, when I first drop them in here, you'll see that there's form and everything's kind of attractive to the eye here because they're all the same size, they're all evenly spaced from one another. They all look good. You will note from the PBS and Triple R examples that we were looking at, they made use of columns there and everything they're doing, 2 columns to every page. That sort of spaces out the information, makes it very easy to read. Keeping on going and how you present the statistics that are available from the National Listener Survey. Here's your community radio time spent listening statistics. You can't see it very well here, but that's not an important part. The sort of thing that I'm trying to prove here is that looks fine and everything, but the fact that these bar graphs are in purple and green sort of makes it look a little bit like, oh, you know, I don't know about that. Here, this next page, we've got the colours sort of reflective of what the CRN logo is. Once again, it's a very tiny change to make things, it's an easy thing to do, but it makes it look a whole lot better. And now with Canva, you can do tons and tons of this sort of thing here. So text, if you want to add some text, that makes it very easy, sort of add a heading, and you move that to the top of the page, add a subheading, it does all the sizes and everything for you, add a body text. Now, what it will do is these will all be in the same font, but you can sort of move them around. And you'll see these lines that are showing up here on the page. They're ensuring that everything is centered. And so it's sort of making sure that everything you're doing sort of looks even. You can do your columns here with this as well. So that's how you add your text to it. Very, very simple. Going up into, the background. You can use this here. Go up into the solid colours. It's got some default colours here, but the colours that are reflective of your logo might not be available. You are able to sort of go in here. If my internet was working, come on you, and create your own colours. If you've got sort of anyone who knows a little bit about graphic design there at your station, they'll sort of know that you've got, with your RGB and your CMYK, you're able to determine the exact same colour that you use for all the stuff you're doing. Oh dear, my screen's just dropped out at the moment. I'll stop that share for a second. Come back on. Sorry about that. I'll come back as to why that's working. While I'm here, I'll have a look to see what's going on in the chat box. Robin Scott says, an important thing about text is to check your spelling and grammar too. Not just colour and font. Very, very good point. I'd be surprised how often that can come back and sting you. Sorry about that. Had a bit of a cold this week. And so you can have your solid colour backgrounds there. Or you can use sort of one of the designs that they have here. Obviously, I don't know. There's probably stations that Pineapple would be reflective of the things that you're doing. But all of these tools that are available to you can really brighten up your sponsorship kit. With the graphs and using the stuff that's available from the National Listener Survey, from the Community Engagement Survey, sorry again, or indeed any of the research that you're doing yourself, here in the Elements section, you're able to create graphs. And so once again, just creating your graphs up here, you're able to sort of put in your statistics in here. Excuse me again. And then sort of make these whatever colour you want, just sort of going through the tools. It would be kind of impossible for me to go through and show you everything that this is able to do. But as stated, it's free, it's open source, it's easy to use. It is a matter of taking that time, not too much time at all, dumping that information into it, making sure that it's logical, much more logical than a red bar graph with a pineapple background. And just making sure that it's telling the story of your station. And with this, you have that opportunity to be able to build something that is simple, that condenses all the information that you have available, and you can feel proud to give to your potential sponsors, and they will see that and they will know that the station is professional. Of course, along with that, Helen said, I can no longer see what you're doing. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing now. Oh no, do I have to share that again? Sorry, that was there. I'll bring that up again. There we are again. Hopefully you're seeing that now. Now, sorry, I think I've gone ahead and done the bar graph thing here. Sorry, I'll do that again. I'll Here we go. It's this easy. Forget about that pineapple page for a second. Just go add a new page. I should really get rid of that pineapple background. Let's go into the backgrounds and get something a bit nicer. Here we go. That's a bit nicer. Let's put a graph in there. Add a heading. Graph. Is that a font that, let's assume that's a font that's reflective of your station. Move that to the top of the page. Go over here to the elements thing. Graph is only one of the elements, and of course, a range of graphs that are available. Put that one there. Item 1, let's say it's listening. Well, I've put 2 graphs over the top of one another. That wasn't what I meant to do. And you're sort of able to change all the fields and that, change the colours so it matches what your station's doing. And from canva.com, easy to use. It does take a bit of mucking around, but that's the same principles as when you all learned audio editing and learned to use the desk at your station. You just need to have a bit of a play with it for a bit, and then you're able to create your own sponsorship kit, which is of course following those design principles. Color, make sure the colors reflect your station's logo. Space, make sure that everything is spaced in a logical fashion and is easy to read. Form, you'll know from looking at something whether your form is a little bit off. Generally be just a matter of lining up things to make sure that they're all in place, and of course you'll sort of see with what's available here that'll line things up for you. These photos here, for instance, they're all the same size. Oh, there we go. See the lines popping up? There we go. That's all lined up there. Is this one lined up? Let's move it around here. Yes, it is. There we are. And then a matter of just making sure that the space between all 3 of them is the same. Oh, I'm very sorry about this coughing, everyone. I hope it's not sort of coming through the mic too loudly. Unity and harmony. Make sure all the elements in the space are working together, and balance. So that's even distribution of the visual weight throughout the document. Just making sure that the visual document there to sell the sponsorship for your station is as pleasant, easy to the eye as your station is pleasant and easy to the ear. Now, we've only got another 10 minutes to go in this evening's session. I should check to see whether there are any questions out there from our wonderful audience. So just sort of wait and see. Now, come on. I'll have to stop my sharing again because it's been very, very difficult at the moment. Helen, now you can see. Great, thanks. Anyone else? Trevor, who's just going to inquire about my health. Don't let the cough fool you. I've never been stronger, Trevor. And that is both in a physical and mental sense, let me tell you. Graham, do you post or hand deliver to potential sponsors? This one might be for Kat and Scott, if you wouldn't mind turning on your mic. Do you post or hand deliver to potential sponsors? I'd suggest it would probably be a bit of a mix of the two.
I think it really...
Kat, if you want to go first.
Sure. I mean, it really depends on who your potential, like who you're targeting, really. So I always prefer to give physical things to people, and that's just because in my previous role, in my last job, we always were told that some of the marketing research around in the ether in the universe is that if you take home something physical, even if you end up walking out of whatever meeting, if you have something physical in your hand, you're more likely to engage with whatever that product or company or brand, or in our case, radio station is. And that's just because it's a mental thing. Whereas if you just get an email, it's sort of mentally, you kind of consider it as, I guess, another email that you've got to read, or for example, it's just that part of that sort of spam where you get all the other marketing stuff. And again, it comes back to that sort of ease of access too. Like if you're just sending something as an email to someone, for example, maybe they're not going to open up the attachment. Maybe they go, oh yeah, cool, I've got that, but they won't necessarily read what's inside it. I always think a face-to-face conversation, especially when it comes to trying to follow up with sponsorship leads, is always going to go down better than not being in front of the client where possible. So obviously, as Scott was saying, a lot of the clients aren't necessarily in Tamworth. We have that as well. So some people that aren't Sydney-based businesses are contacting us for sponsorship. So, it's not always possible. But then again, that's where if you're going to say post a package to someone, I'd be picking up the phone and having that conversation. But yeah, always try and set up a face-to-face meeting, and that's where you could really, kind of going back to what I was saying before, you kind of get that immediate feedback about what does and doesn't work in the kit. So, for example, I was noticing that people weren't paying attention to certain parts of the media kit, but also certain information in the media kit. So I immediately went, right, well, let's put something else in that they do care about. And also, if you build up that rapport, and that just makes sense. If you build up a face-to-face rapport with a potential client, they're more likely to come back to you later, as opposed to sort of sending it off either via email, either via post, mail. It's not going to have the same effect as that face-to-face meeting where you can sit down and actually ask what they need out of your station, rather than just kind of expecting that what you have, the way you always do it, is going to suit them. Yeah.
Excellent. Thanks for that, Kat. Scott?
Well, we always, obviously try and set up face-to-face meetings where possible. That's not sometimes because obviously people aren't in town or whatever. So we would email it. I don't think I've ever posted one, but I've certainly emailed it, and obviously gone in with it as part of my presentation with that and the rate card, and a survey document and all that sort of thing. But so we don't send it out unsolicited. So we don't, if we're prospecting or cold calling or anything like that, we don't just send it out. So we would probably, and depending on the town where you are or the city where you are, we're pretty lucky that our industrial area is quite easy to get around. You just drive there, get out, and just walk around, and we either sort of drop business cards in or whatever. Sometimes leave that document, but normally, and I would email it if we get a phone inquiry and we're talking about what the station can do. I'll say to someone, look, there's a lot of information to digest. Yes, this is who we get to, this is how long they listen, this is all the details. But what I will do is I'll send you our marketing document via email. So when it is emailed, 9 times out of 10, the person knows they're getting it and actually wants to find out a bit more about that information that we've been discussing on a call if it's not able to be a physical meeting. So it's never sort of sent out as an unsolicited email. So hopefully they're always, after the phone call, they're always expecting it, and they'll sort of go through it and check it out that way. Just quickly, Dan, if I can, there was a question a lot earlier from Craig in Ballarat about engaging the community. So one thing, and it was probably obviously a big one because of the whole drought scenario, but we initiated a campaign locally with the council and with the Salvation Army around, it was called Are You Aware We Care, which was a whole drought sort of relief fund, if you like, and set it up with the council so that donations could be brought in, and that was distributed, and all that stayed local. So some of the drought initiatives that might be happening, are either national entities or whatever, and although they're obviously doing a great service and the right thing, not all of the funding stays in the local community. Some of it goes out, so this was set up to specifically to do that. And I know that's probably not really a simple thing, but council initiatives, local initiatives, like the Salvation Army or those sort of things, those entities in the town that have a good standing in the community, maybe sort of partnering with those people to do things like that, as we said before, business chamber, council, that initiatives like that. So that's probably one of the ways that we try and make sure we engage more in the community by those local entities. So hope that That gives it a bit
Excellent. Thanks for doing it. You're doing my job for me there, Scott, too, because I did see that question come up and I forgot to have a look at that one. But good on you for answering that one. Angie asks, how can I access the National Listener Survey information pertaining to the station I'm with to include in our media kit? The National Listener Survey information is available via the CBAA website. Whether your station would need to purchase specific information for their station if they want that really drilled down information. But there's also, it's broken up into state, metro versus rural and regional statistics there as well. I will send the link, excuse me, to where all of that lives. If you're from a smaller station, Angie, you could probably do some targeted customer research or listener audience research with the station community engagement survey. The National Listener Survey information, a lot of that is for sort of very big metropolitan markets or your sort of bigger regional markets. For smaller stations, I'd suggest the station community engagement survey, or indeed, just when next time you're doing the sausage sizzle at the multinational hardware store, just have some pieces of paper there and be asking those questions of your audience. Angie also asked about the RRR documents, about 12 pages. How big or small do you think this sort of document should be? I think Kat, the 2SER one's about 8 pages, and Scott, yours is 4 to 6. I think it's got to be as long as a piece of string, as long as it's got all that information. It tells a story about who the station is, how many people are listening, who are the people that are listening, why are they listening, sort of a bit of a breakdown as to who they are. Ensure that you've got your contact details there and just all the pertinent information there. There is, while I would like to be able to say to you, this is the absolute perfect thing that you need in your sponsorship kit, there are sort of evolving documents, if you will. And it also asks, what do you classify as a small station? I think there's definitions there that sort of stations that are sort of I spoke to a station the other day who the population of the town they're in was 300 people. I classify that as a small station. So would they. But they'd also classify themselves as a good station. And so would I. I think small station is, I guess it'd be one of those things that's sort of anything that's outside of a metropolitan market, even though I don't like that definition. Even though we've got sort of a small station award, I don't really agree with that definition. Far be it for me to say, to go against what my place of employment says. I think there are small markets, but yeah, no small stations in my mind. Scott Black there. Okay, Scott, how you going? He's saying that Canva's a good tool as well. He's got a paid version of it, which is what is it, $17 a month. That's not too bad, but he also mentions that it's free for not-for-profits. It does include a thorough application. So you do have to jump through some hoops. There is a free version you can get online, and I think you can check it out for a month or so, just to check to see if it's the right fit for you. Even if you get in there, you might even be able to get your sponsorship kit made within that month's time if you work on it hard enough. Certainly worth going through the application process though, because also, as Scott suggests, it has applications not just for building a sponsorship kit. You can also use it for your online because it syncs up well with Facebook. How much does it cost for the station community engagement survey? Robin, I am going to get in touch with you via your email, which I should have, and we will be discussing that very, very soon. When I send you the email with the recording of this, I might get you to respond to it with, hey, can I get this community engagement survey, please? Because I think once I shut down out of this webinar, the chat saved somewhere, but I don't trust myself to be able to find it. Trevor Franklin with Fraser Coast FM, we use an invitation message to sponsor and take the leads to sponsorship from the email inquiry. That's a great way to do it. And there is no sort of right or wrong way to do it. I think there was a question in there before about how to set sponsorship rates. One of our earlier webinars had a thing like that. The market is what will be the thing that sort of sets how much you can charge for sponsorship. I better let Kat and Scott go, though, and I better let the rest of you go so you can enjoy your night. But you'll see some resources there that we referred to tonight: National Listener Survey, Station Community Engagement Survey, Canva, as well as the design elements and principles that we spoke of. They've got 20 tips on attractive, compelling and engaging design that I'll send to everyone tomorrow. It's really, really great stuff. We've got plenty of webinars and sponsorship available from the CBAA website. There was a 3-part series of Stephen Peed. We might be seeing more of him in the next little while. That's available on the website, plus a whole bunch of other great stuff. CMTO, if you're wanting to do courses, I can't recommend highly enough the sponsorship and fundraising, copywriting for sponsorship courses that they have available. And they've got other courses beyond that that are just really absolutely fantastic for community broadcasters. Please join us for next month's webinar, Building Your Station Brand Through Social Media. Have you heard about that social media? It's going to be taking place at 6:30 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, Wednesday, not 27th of March. That's wrong. Wrong. Why would I have put that in there? It's going to be Wednesday, 31st of July. Do you hear me? Thank God the webinar is both a visual and audio format. Otherwise, I wouldn't know what I was doing. cbaa.org.au webinars. That's going to be a great webinar. That's going to be presented by the Arrow Agency, who are a social media and promotions agency here in Sydney. Really thankful to have them here. Thank you so much to everyone attending for this evening. Big special extra thanks to Kat from 2SER and Scott from 88.9 in Tamworth, both stations that are doing some excellent stuff. You'll note on the news section of the CBAA website at the moment that the 2SER has been successful at the New York City Radio Awards. I've probably said those awards wrong. Yeah, what are they going to do? Come and get me. And the contact details for 88.9 in Tamworth are available to everyone. For sort of rural and regional stations, they've got a really, the northwest New South Wales stations, they've got a really good, great group happening together where they're sharing their knowledge together, bolstering everything that's going on there. You can get in touch with Scott and also CEO of 88.9 in Tamworth, George Frame. I'm dobbing George in here a little bit. If you're a station from a similar market and you're looking to connect with other stations and grow from just sort of seeing what you can learn from one another. Thanks so much to Helly at the Community Media Training Organisation. He is a wonderful dude, and I hope he has a wonderful night. This is Danny on behalf of the Community Broadcasting Association of Australia. Thank you so much for coming. Be sure to fill out the feedback form when you get to the end of it. Positive feedback would be great. Net Promoter Score. Remember we were talking about them. An email with a recording of this will be in your inboxes mid-morning tomorrow. Any questions, please feel free to follow up that way. Thank you so much for joining us. I'll see you next time at the CBAA webinars, brought to you with the thanks and support of the Community Media Training Organisation.